Neoliberalism is a development theory that believes free trade, unfettered markets, small government, and export-oriented trade is key to national development. When shifting to a neoliberal economy, governments encourage entrepreneurialism and emphasize export-led growth by taking down trade barriers such as tariffs and subsidies.
Meet me in Johannesburg, me and the whole wide world. Come by sea.
Prior to implementing neoliberalism, farmers would receive a standard price for their crops, despite the current worth of the crop. This leads to the loss of money for the government. Without the regulations on the market to meet quotas, there was an oversaturation of products, which drives the price of the product down. In the 80s, countries were defaulting and did not have anyone to receive loans from. The IMF and WB stepped in and provided last-minute loans with the requirement that these countries follow a set of neoliberal policies. Comparative advantage is the product that people are able to best compete with in a free market.
Some call it land grabbing, others say it's a fair business opportunity that helps the world to grow more food. Those in favor say it leads to bigger harvests and new jobs, but the critics say local farmers and communities are being shortchanged.
Land grabbing is the buying or leasing of large pieces of land in developing countries by domestic and transnational companies, governments, and individuals.
Joseph has always worked on the land, specifically on this land in Benin, which he inherited from his father. It's how he feeds his family. Joseph's 10 hectares are in demand. Not a day goes by without someone offering to buy them.
In Africa, their comparative advantage was their vast empty land. Implementing neoliberalism meant deregulating land ownership to open land as an export commodity. The main product being exported was the land.
People come here, they keep on coming. They're always showing up, especially because my land is next to a spring which never runs dry. I don't want to sell my land because I live here. And I know what's going on all across this area. I know what's become of people who've sold up. A farmer who has sold his land is like a soldier who has sold his weapon.
So who are these buyers? Many are multinational companies represented by local intermediaries, and according to villagers, they promise fabulous returns for those who sell.
Security for these countries heavily dependent on foreign food aid. Direct shipment of food aid means absence of value addition for producer countries. Manufacturing of farm products, increasing their value by processing them locally and selling them abroad is totally absent.
Countries such as Saudi Arabia, South Korea, and China have recently begun to export capital to African countries such as Ethiopia, Sudan, and the Congo, and to import food produced in these African countries. By outsourcing farm production to countries that need capital and have land available for farming, new seeds, techniques, and money for agriculture are invested in African farms. However, many argue that since governments, not private investors, are the driving forces behind these new outsourcing operations, land in African countries is being sold to foreign nations at the expense of the African people. Although the land in these African countries may be owned by the state, the land is often occupied by people who have farmed it for generations. This indicates that outsourcing farm production to African countries replaces a former generation of farmers with a new generation of farmers, perhaps from the host countries themselves, who have few rights to the land. In fact, the nations driving outsourced farm production have been criticized for not sharing benefits among locals, not releasing to the public the terms of the negotiations, and not adhering to national trade policies, such as refraining from exporting food if there is a famine in the country. However, both Ethiopia and Sudan are suffering from famines, and South Korea and China are still exporting. This neoliberal practice demonstrates both the benefit and the harm of export-oriented growth.